I just wanted to see what else you would do before I step back in the frame. What's going on, eyebrows?
Nothing much. No product placement today.
No product placement today. I ripped the label off mine.
I conveniently go off camera.
Yeah, I hope. Yes, you do. Smarty pants. Did you want to start, or did you want me to start? We had the doozy, or did you want to hear about my Dracula incident?
What's your Dracula first?
Dracula first. Okay, I've been in four or three or four versions of Dracula. This particular version was done by Don Nigro, and it's called the Transylvanian Clockworks. All the characters are in it. Jonathan Harker, Van Helsing, Dr. Seward, and the girls themselves also, Mina. Jonathan Harker, the only one who's missing is Renfield. And this is the version I was playing Jonathan Harker. And a friend of ours, you know him too, Mr. Jonathan Schwind, name drop. He was playing Van Helsing. And this was years ago because the Aardvark Theater was still open. And that was on Mesa, across the street from what used to be 26 Univision and the Big Dipper, that ice cream shop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's how long ago that was. And Jonathan Harker is in the asylum and Seward's there. The ironic thing about this one is that Dr. Seward and Jonathan Harker have no lines together, even though he's my doctor. And there was one day we were performing, and we get to the climax of it where I'm starting to freak out, and I'm waiting for it. This is before my freak out, and we're waiting for Van Helsing, for John to get there. Dr. Seward and myself don't have any lines together. We don't. And so Dr. Seward and myself are on stage for about, it felt like a lifetime. It had to be about 5 minutes though, and we don't have any dialogue at all in the script. So we just have to kind of, we have to improvise and wait for John to show up. Now it's a small space, so we're hoping that he hears us and he can come on stage so we can continue the scene. It turns out, and we waited for 5 minutes, and then we hear John come on and we continue the scene. We found out later on that day, after the show, that John was by the sound and light board because they were together off to the side. And the stage manager told us, she's looking at the scene, and she looks at her script, then looks at John, looks at the scene, looks at her script, looks at John, does it one more time, and then she goes, aren't you supposed to be out there? Now, this is where John, Dr. Seward and myself, we're on stage and all we hear is, oh shit, oh shit. Like, we heard 3 oh shits, and then the rustling of his feet just... Then he comes on stage. Oh man, it felt like an eternity. Just, I hope he comes on soon, because in that small space, the audience is this far away from you, and you're just like, please don't notice. How about you, sir?
I guess the two most recent ones, which I'm going to mention two, specifically because they involve one of our amazing technicians. I won't name drop her, but she knows who she is because she's awesome. The first one happened during our performance of The Importance of Being Earnest, which we had this great set, amazing set, revolving door, bookshelves that came in and were pushed back in. Audience would stay and watch this whole setup. I know we've had a couple of shows like that. Just some setups are pretty amazing. But during one particular instance, this was during the rehearsal process before the show took place. So we're pushing the bookshelves out and turning them back around and pushing them back in. Well, not we, the actors, because, it's not what we're supposed to do. But myself and another actress were waiting down in what we call the VOMs. It's the vomitoriums, where the actors wait to come onto the stage. And we're just waiting there, and all of a sudden, like, everything stops. And we hear shouting, and we're like, okay, what's going on? And apparently, what had happened, because we saw one of the other actors who plays one of the butlers in the show, he comes running on stage up into the house, and he's carrying one of the technicians, and we can't see who it is because her face is like turned toward him. But we find out who it was later on. But apparently what had happened, they don't know exactly why it happened. It could have been a mistake in one of the other classes who was fixing the bookshelf or whatever. But the bookshelf, one of the shelves themselves had actually gotten caught on something and had actually been pulled straight off the shelf, which in itself is kind of bad. But then the shelf decided that it was going to come down on this particular technician's head.
Ooh.
And had knocked her out. But, interestingly enough, not before she had finished putting the bookshelf into place. That's why I say, pretty awesome technician. She pushed it in, it hit her, she stops, she finishes pushing the bookshelf in, and then she collapses. We're thankful that she's all right, and she's really great. But they called immediately the head of the theater technical department. I won't name drop him either because he'll probably hurt me. He on the ball immediately calls the necessary people, calls the ambulance. They all come in. They give her a look over. He's there, Johnny on the spot, making sure that she's okay. But yeah, it turned out she was great, and she just gets up and she's like, "What?"
Yeah.
So she got to watch the rest of they just like told her just sit out and watch the rest of the show and don't worry about it. Because it wasn't her fault. She'd done everything she was supposed to do, and they just wanted to make sure that she was all right. Now, the story you may not know, this is in the most recent show we just did, Hand to God. If you got a chance to see it, good for you. I love you. Thank you for supporting us.
I was there opening night, and I think I was when I saw it, and I'll let you get to your story, when I saw it on opening night, and there's a part where Tony gets the hammer and goes to town on his hand, and Stephanie runs in and tries to block Tony. I think I was one of the very few people to laugh at that. And I think at that point, if nobody knew already, that I was in the audience, because I'm that guy who laughs at really inappropriate moments, like when people hurt themselves.
Very distinctive laugh, too.
Yes, especially when the blood shot out and hit the bookshelf. I can't help it.
But yeah, I mean,
it was a good show. I enjoyed it.
It's a good show.
All right, go for it.
And if you didn't get a chance to see that show, well, you missed out. It's a good show. Curses to you. No, but what happened? Same girl, same tech. She has a very specific thing that she's supposed to do in the second act of the show, which is when the pastor, played by me, comes down into the basement to see the boy whose puppet's been possessed by the devil. This whole incident is supposed to happen where the puppet comes over the top of the chalkboard and says, "Welcome to hell," and then a bird slams into a window and a door shuts. The bird. During this one performance, a live performance, the bird broke the window. It shattered the window.
Oh no! I wasn't there. Can't blame me for that.
No, but like it didn't spew any of the glass forward, but which I think would have been better because I wasn't standing as close to the window. But what did happen is that the back half of the window did shatter and the glass came back toward this particular
Ooh,
technician.
of course.
Not to mention the fact that when she threw it, because of the glass propelling itself at her, it also caused her to kind of fall backward and off the stool that she was on, which put her at a distance to throw the bird. So when I saw the window shatter, I was like, oh my God. And it actually got a real reaction out of me, which I'm pretty sure our director was happy about. But after it happened, like as soon as I was off stage, I rushed back there and I was like, oh my God, what happened? And then she was like, oh yeah, I threw it and it broke and I fell off the stool. She goes, I think actually falling off the stool was the scarier part than the glass coming at me. And I was like, oh, you okay? Are you okay? And she's like, yeah, I just got a cut. But it's a little tiny cut. And she like turns her face. She has 2 little nicks from glass in her face and they're bleeding. And I look at her and I'm like, those cuts are bleeding. And she's like, oh, are they? And she just cleans them up and goes, oh, okay. And walks away.
I remember one, and I just, as you were telling it, this was when I was at EPCC, and the subject was roses. Did you ever see it?
No.
Gee, thanks for your support.
I don't think, I was there for that one, but okay.
Well, the thing is that, well, that just doesn't make any sense at all.
But it's the one where you played somebody from the military. You were in the military, right?
Yeah, I came back home this was amidst World War II, and I came back home. Well, the thing that I was, it's not all that great.
You're never going to know unless you tell it.
No, because I'm thinking about it now, and it's like it's only funny to me.
And welcome back, kids. Another edition of What Not to Do on Stage.
There's a lot of what not to do on stage. All right. I don't even know how to start this one off. How long ago was that?
2012.
Yeah, because I did Dracula at EPC in 2011. I remember that one. That one put me in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's a story for another day. Oh, you know what? No, that didn't. That happened when I was coming off stage. Does that count?
Yeah.
This was 2012, like John was saying. We were doing a version of Alice in Wonderland. Yes, I was the March Hare.
Yeah.
And what's his face was the Mad Hatter. You were the White Rabbit?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, see, you probably remember it better than I do. It was an Act 2, and Act 2 started with the Tea Party scene. And for some reason, the director at the time was she would always, feel free, go for it. And I did. People should know that when I'm playing those types of characters, expect the unexpected.
We had a few directors like that, haven't we?
Yes. But people are still surprised with what I do on stage. With this particular version, I was March Hare. And we had the table was a little longer than this one,
Mm-hmm.
and wider too, because I was able to jump on it and not break it. And all the teacups, we had like 15 some odd teacups, and they were all filled with water, because drinking actual tea would have been too much for me because of how fast I was drinking it. Excuse me. So I would run through the table and drink all this water really, really fast. And at one point, I did it so much that water was all over the floor. The girl who played Alice almost slipped on it. And I almost drowned myself drinking all that water because I was talking and drinking water at the same time, which is never a good idea. And I was doing it. But it had to be a couple of nights before. It was after that scene. We were taking off the table, me and one of the techs, and we were taking it off, and there was a bookshelf backstage, and we didn't maneuver it, so it went bookshelf, my hand, and the table. I smashed my hand into the bookshelf, and immediately it started to bruise, So I did the one thing that I knew to do was to clench my fist and open it. So the bruise, I don't know why. I don't know. Well, my hand, like all this was bruising, like it on the immediate impact, and my hand just went, and I went, nope, not today, Satan. And I kept going, like everybody was like, you need to get some ice on that, and I was like, no, later. And yeah, I was holding my hand closed, and then I would open it randomly, and I almost did the thing that you're not supposed to do when popping a bruise. I almost got my knife and just went, shh. I didn't do it though. It calmed down. It swelled. But on that same show, we had to wear tights, and I would go around like, I know it wasn't a part of the show. I'm bouncing all over the place now. That's what you did, White Rabbit. No, because I was like, I would always do that voice, and then when people would actually be in the scenes, and then I was like, I'm sorry. And then you just hear me in the back going, sorry. I'm a horrible person.
Especially during like the court scenes where we all had
Yes.
to be together.
Yes, during the court scenes when all of us were on stage. And, yes. I'm all over the place, but then I started to remember the walk I was doing. You remember the walk that I did? Because I did the same walk for Charlie's Aunt. You see how bad John's laughing right now? Because he remembers. Okay, so we had Alice in Wonderland, and I would be on stage near the ending when it was the court scene, and we were all like, that show is so energetic because it was meant for kids, and we were sold out a lot, and you have to keep it up. So by the end of the show, like everybody's just drained and exhausted, and I'm here being me, and and you just hear me like just sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. But before that show, we were doing, and I remember this because I think you told me, we were doing Charlie's Aunt, and I was playing the butler. We talked about this in the previous episode, and it's footage I haven't posted.
One day.
We were doing Charlie's Aunt, and I was playing the butler. Well, we have talked about Charlie's Aunt briefly in another video when we were talking about Mr. Crabwalk. And how he got replaced a week and a half before opening. I realized this, and I told you this. It's a 3-act show.
Mm.
In Act 2, my character's one goal is to set a table for tea. That is it. That is my one goal in Act 2, is just to get like the tablecloth and then the tea, and that's it. But every time I try to, something else goes awry, which is part of the show, and then I get thrown off stage. So at the end of that act, I just come in with the tray because I said, forget this, I'm just bringing in the tray. But near the ending of Act 3, I was asked to come up with a walk. You hated me so much for that. How long before opening when I came up with that?
I think it was only like maybe like a few rehearsals.
Okay, we had like 3, let's say 3.
Yeah.
We had about 3 rehearsals left for Charlie's Aunt before we opened, and the director asked me to come up with a walk at the ending where I go and I tell one of the masters, like, I have to warn him about this. And I came up with a walk. And he had asked me, he's like, you got to walk? And I was like, I do. But I'm not going to do it until opening night. And I did. And then, because nobody had seen it before. So when I did that, like when the whole thing happens, and then I did the walk, and I come down stage, and I make that turn, and I look off, and I see you just turn your head because you start laughing. And then there was one performance, and I don't know who had warned, because you remember how one of the actresses got replaced, and you kept telling them, whatever you do, don't look at Patrick?
The aunt.
Yes, you kept telling them and warning them, and they're like, why? And then they turned and looked. I don't know why anybody never believes you.
Oh man, and it's funny because like me, the other actress who came on has a bad problem with not being able. If something funny happens, we gotta laugh, and that's why you try to get it out of the way during rehearsal. But if it's during a show, you're just like, there's nothing you can do but try to keep it. I can't. I'm bad at it. So I told her, I was like, don't look at Patrick. Don't look at him. And you know, it's one of those things like where you tell someone not to do something.
Almost like saying, don't touch it because it's wet paint, but they have to check. That was great.
But I do think you should demonstrate.
I'm not demonstrating that walk. No way.
It was great.
You know the messages I will get for that walk? You know how many people are going to watch this, shake their head and go, I know which walk he's talking about? Exactly. You're going to facepalm and go, oh, that walk. There were so many times. And I did that walk, and people would just look at me and just try not to laugh, and they're just like, and shake their head.
So for future episodes, keep a lookout for Patrick's walk.
Yeah, I'm going to title an episode that says The Walk.
30 minutes long. Just the walk.
It's going to be looped. I'm not going to walk for 30 minutes. It's just going to be looped.
It'll be like a cut and paste, different locations. They'll pass on.
Yeah. It's not a bad idea.
Well, interestingly enough, since you brought up Alice in Wonderland, stuff that should not happen on stage, and thank God this got taken care of right before we opened. Let's call this one costume malfunction. So there was a character, as everyone knows, in Alice in Wonderland, known as the Cheshire Cat. And they decided during this production that they were going to put the Cheshire Cat because they wanted him to look all, flexible, able to move, elastic or whatever. So they put him in a morph suit. Now, for those of you who know what a morph suit is, it's pretty bad. It's like a one-piece bodysuit and it is skin tight. Well, our particular Cheshire Cat decided that he was going to go commando. You could see everything.
I think I was outside on purpose.
And he was perfectly okay with it. But we weren't. So we got him these cute little pink booty shorts. And he wore them for the performance. I think he liked them. But, it could have gone really wrong if that had actually happened on stage. It's a kid's show.
Yeah. Yes.
We talked about Charlie's Aunt already, so... Oh, you know what? Speaking of things that can go wrong, here's another show. Agatha Christie show.
Hold that. Here's a small one, and it's quick, and I broke a couple of people. People were in character, and I broke them on stage, and they told me during intermission. It was Taming of the Shrew, 2014, at UTEP, and I had one of the lead roles, and it got to the point where I was trying to court one of the girls, and it wasn't working, and I was teaching her music lessons even though I didn't know how to play because I was that guy. I was that character. Horatio, I think his name was. Hortensio. It was Hortensio. Yeah. Yes, it was Hortensio. And he comes up with this disguise and he tries to, but that daughter just doesn't cooperate. And the bit is that she slams the guitar over my head. So when I come back on stage, I have all this wood and bit and dust in my hair, but it was obviously a wig. So I come back on stage, and I'm all surprised, and I tell him what happens, and then I tilt my head down, and all this just falls everywhere. And this is the second to last show, and one of the other characters is a little further than where you were, but he's sitting on one of the steps. And I looked down, and I guess I had never done it before. I did not do it as extreme as I did it then, because I looked at it and I went, oh, oh. And for some reason, it was at that moment that he looks at me as I do that, and I'm wide-eyed, and I do that noise. He starts laughing. He's on the steps, and he's just like this, and he's bobbing up and down because of how hard he's laughing, and he's trying to hide it. But you can't hide that, no. So intermission comes, and we get off stage, and we're in the dressing room, we're changing, and he comes up to me, and he's like, I hate you so much. And I was like, why? What happened? And he goes, when you came back on stage and you go, oh, I couldn't take it anymore, man. And I broke down and I started laughing because that, for some reason, was really funny today. And I can't do it anymore. And I was like, oops. I thought that was funny. And nothing really went wrong. It was just breaking someone's character, I think, is funny. But I'm not everybody shares my enthusiasm for it.
Oh man, breaking character.
You had something about Agatha Christie?
Yeah, but I'll get back to it. Yeah. Because you brought up breaking character and Shakespeare. So
that was the only time I was able to perform in a Shakespeare show, because Shakespeare's hard to memorize, and that show almost gave me a heart attack 2 days before opening. That's right. 2 days before Taming of the Shrew opened, I almost had a heart attack. And not even that took me out, so we're good. And Dracula almost took me out too. I ended up in the ER, and I think I need to stop. Well, no, I haven't performed in about 4 years, so.
You need to stop working on classical material, Patrick.
Touche.
Now this was doing a show that might actually be coming up again, maybe. It's a show called The Merry Wives of Windsor. And I think I've talked about this before, but I'm not entirely sure. So, but speaking of breaking someone's character, there's two husbands in the show. It's Master Page, which is who I played, and then Master Ford. And we're supposed to be coming on. We're supposed to be, Master Ford is supposed to be angry beyond all belief. He thinks his wife is cheating on him. He thinks he has proof, and he's brought all his buddies, including his friend Master Page, to witness that she's cheating with this character named Falstaff. And we're supposed to come out. We're supposed to be like on a hunting trip or whatever, and we're coming on stage. But of course, we're all buddies. Actors will be actors. So we're backstage, and we're just like quietly, to not disturb the performance, we're just like telling jokes and stuff, and we're all laughing, and we're having a good time, except for Master Ford.
Sure.
Because he's having a good time, but he's trying not to laugh. But he's not laughing. Like, he's trying not to laugh. He's trying to keep his head in the zone of, I have to come on, I have to be angry. And he does. Until he actually gets on stage. And he's supposed to get on stage, stop, and turn around, and he has a line to all of us. And of course, we're all like we're all laughing, and now trying to keep our laugh quiet. So he gets on stage, he walks out, maybe like 4 steps on stage. He turns around and looks back, and like, I bet you this is all he saw from everybody that was waiting to come on. And he looks at us, and he just goes, and he loses it, and he's supposed to be angry and mad, and he just loses it. It's crazy. Yeah. Love that guy. Good times, man.
Yeah, some of the best. That's what live theater is. You have to expect the unexpected, because when things go wrong, they can go really wrong. But the audience doesn't know.
As long as we don't let them know.
Yeah, like this quick bit, and I came off doing Mary Poppins Jr. at Radford, right?
Mm.
And the kids were super nervous because it was sold out and it was, I mean, it's a musical and it's a tough musical to do. I mean, it's Mary Poppins Jr., but even then, it's still a tough one to do. And poor kids, but they muscled through it. A couple of them felt bad and they were sorry. I don't know how it happened, but it was. I was at the light board and Blue Shoes is doing sound, and all of a sudden, like, and I'm holding his script just in case, so he's not, having to go back and forth. And I'm holding his script and I'm watching the show, and all of a sudden, as I look at him, he just goes, like, he goes wide-eyed, and his hand does this, and then his hands does this. The kids had jumped 11 pages. And the kids were freaking out. And the director comes up to me, and we find the page that they're on, and the director goes backstage. I'm just going to tell them to keep going forward. This is what we're going to go next. And Blue Shoes, this is what we're doing next. Like, this is the next song we have to do to get back on track. So she goes backstage, and she tells them, but as she goes back on stage, the kids try to go back to a different number, and it doesn't work out so well. They do that number, and as soon as that number is over, they go to where the director told them this is the number that we're gonna do. They get up. The show ends, and everybody says, "Good job, that was a good show." But the two kids who had jumped, they felt so bad, and they were so sorry. Like, I wasn't even. This is one of the few ones where I watched, and I wasn't even on stage for it. But when you're not on stage, and I don't know, have you ever watched a show, knew something went wrong, and you couldn't help but look away, like, oh my god? Any of them? A couple.
One.
Right. Okay.
That you were there for.
Well, wait, we'll get to that one too. Well, they felt so bad that they had apologized, and we're like, no, it's okay, it happens. Again, it's live theater. Things go wrong. The audience never noticed, though. And that's the point, is for the audience not to know that something goes wrong. There was one, I'm Not Rappaport. And this was years ago. This was, I was doing Lights and Sound. And one of the characters, because it's two old guys, and then just, and they're talking about all just sorts of random stuff. And one of the guy's daughter shows up, a jogger shows up, just random characters like that through the park. Well, at one point, one of the older gentlemen is talking to the jogger. So the other guy just kind of goes to another bench and minds his own business. Well, because it's such a long scene, that dude ended up falling asleep on stage. And it's not like they could just, time to get up, let's continue. Like, we were just hoping that he would wake up in time for his, and which he did, thankfully. But there's those times where, is he going to make it? What's going to happen? Let's watch and see what happens.
Well, the one that I remember, and that you were actually there for, stuff that goes wrong on stage, and you just kind of this one was impossible to hide. And it's because it wasn't the actor's fault, it wasn't the technician's fault, nobody's fault except for a member of the backstage crew. And I say it's not the technician's fault because this person technically wasn't a technician. They just happened to be a member of the venue we were at. So we were doing this play, and for all intents and purposes, we'll just codename this play Hamlet. And Patrick and myself were not on stage for this. We were actually watching it.
Yes,
in front of
I totally remember this. I remember this.
And we're sitting right next to the director of the show.
I remember that. She was so pissed off.
As we're watching the show, the fog machines come on for the ghost scene, and there's fog everywhere, and it's mysterious, and ooh, and everybody's like, oh, that's nice. Well, apparently, this certain person that was backstage decided that it was too foggy too foggy. So during the transition of the scene, which is all lit up, it's all lit up in red, and it's kind of dark, but not really dark. You can still
It's
see the
dimly
person.
lit.
Yeah. This person comes on with this huge folder-looking fan thing, and starts doing this.
It was the size of a pizza spatula, and he's
going.
I totally remember that. Yeah.
And the director just looks and goes, "What the expletive is he doing on stage?"
She was so bad.
And you can't hide it. I mean, he's in the middle of the stage, and people can see him. And it's during a transition. It's not like it's during intermission where it's like, okay, people are gonna have to get popcorn or whatever. Not that we sell popcorn, but yeah, it was like in the middle of a performance.
There was one. Unless you got one more, I got one more.
I got two, but part of the same show. But go ahead.
Okay, this is my last one, at least for now. For now, he's gonna be so pissed off. I don't care, because he doesn't live here. Bring it. This was my first show at the Playhouse. Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. And if you've seen the show, then you know, like, there's this bar in one of the rooms, and people are always drinking. Brick and Gooper, they're always drinking, especially Brick because he's got his cast in a leg and his family's all messed up, and he's just always drinking something, right? I'll drop his name. I don't care. What is he gonna do? He doesn't live here. Moy. He's got to watch this anyway. Moy was playing Gooper, and this is the first time. This is also my first show at the Playhouse. The first time I met Moy. Like, the list just goes on. And the scene's progressing as normal. We were about the third weekend, and there's all these bottles on the bar with different liquids in them at different amounts and everything. But the cast normally drinks out of 2 or 3, because those always get switched out every night. Either they get washed out and replaced, or they just get put back in the fridge and saved for the next day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm already laughing because it makes me laugh every time I tell it. Moy wasn't too perceptive that night. He wasn't paying attention, because the other bottles that had X amount of liquid in each of them started to expire. So things started to grow in said bottles. But the bottles they're supposed to... Stop, you're getting ahead of me. The bottles they're supposed to drink out of are labeled. And Moy's looking this way, and he goes to the bar, and he gets his glass, and we're the third weekend. So I've only known Moy for less than a month, right? But, like, I just know it's going to be really funny what happens next. And so Moy gets his glass, and everybody's talking, and Moy does this. He doesn't look at what bottle he grabs. He just grabbed a bottle. Opens it, pours it, and has it. He's doing this, still not looking at what he's doing or what's in his glass. And I'm there going, I'm in the booth, so I have the perfect angle because I see everything that's going on. And I'm just like,
don't do it.
No, I wanted him to do it. Because that's how some people learn the hard way. So I was just there and I was like, do it. Right? And I'm up there. And at the time, I was just doing lights, and my friend Mike was doing sound. Mike was on his PSP or something. And I was like, so Moy's switching it around. And then he looks up, and I'm just kind of like, I don't know what to do, but I also don't want to, like, warn him, because how would that be funny? So he just kind of looks at me, and he knows that I've got this goofy-ass grin on my face, but he doesn't know why. And then he drinks. And as he does this, he goes, And I'm going, the best part is, though, he can't spit it out. So he goes, and he swallows what was in the glass. He goes back to the bar, gets the right bottle, and swishes it down really quick. And he looks up again, and I'm doing this number. Oh man, he looked up and he saw me do that. He was so pissed off. But the best part about it is that that scene had 30 more minutes, so I knew I was okay. He gets off stage. You bastard. It's the first thing he says to me. He's like, you could have warned me. And I was like, how would that be funny?
It's not my job to make sure you're grabbing the right stuff.
Exactly. My job's just to make sure that you're lit, boy.
Well, the last two stories I have, and we hinted on them a little while back.
Do they involve me?
Agatha Christie.
Damn it. All right, go for it.
It's a show that we did at the Playhouse. It was called Spider's Web. I think it was Spider's Web. Yeah, Spider's Web. And what ended up happening in this show is that it's all about this killer who's striking and killing people, and then they call in the police, and then the police have to investigate the murder. And myself, I played a constable, and this guy Joe. I don't think he's here anymore either, but he should watch this. He knows what I'm talking about. We're sitting there, and at one part, after they murder the person, they're supposed to take him and hide him in the secret bookcase, the secret opening. Or not the people who killed him, but the people who find the body. They're like, well, the cops are here. We got to get rid of this body. So they try to shove him into the secret compartment. Well, it was a really small space they had up there with a railing. And they're trying to shove this guy's body to thing, and one of the actors trips. It happens. And he falls backward, and he goes through the railing.
Oh, no.
Live performance on stage. Completely destroyed the railing. I mean, and like, for the purpose of the show continuing to go on, because this is them barely finding the body. Barely finding it. So how are they supposed to continue this entire show, another like hour and a half of show, with a broken railing? Well, we did it. That's how. But same show. This one
is still Spider's Web?
Spider's Web.
Okay.
This one involves the killer. The actor, of course, now lives in California. His name is Abel Garcia. If you're watching this, you should hire him. Great guy, great actor. But what ended up happening is he decided that he wanted that. I mean, the way Abel works is that he kind of like, he likes to get into who his character is emotionally. Yes. He likes to really hit it, personalize it. And so during the last part of the scene, and I think I've told part of this story before. He's supposed to like confront the detective, and at one point, Abel decided that it would be a good idea to spit at the detective. Now, the detective is played by Joe. These guys are friends. So on stage, he looks at him, looks him right in the face, and he goes, and he spits on him. He actually spits on him without missing a beat. Joe looks down, looks back at him, and spits in his face. And so, progressively, night after night, they just keep spitting back and forth. It keeps getting like so much worse than the night before. But
no, go ahead.
One of the performances, Abel's a big guy. The Playhouse.
Yes, Abel's tall, and I had to play opposite of him during Taming of the Shrew, and the director just goes, "Just try and stop him. He's a linebacker. What do you mean, try and stop him?"
Well, during this performance, because Abel's so big, and because Abel, when he gets into character, he really gets into character, we're trying to arrest him.
Oh no!
And Abel's supposed to get angry. He tries to attack us. and we shove him up against the wall. And what Abel had started to do was when we would shove him up against, because again, Abel, he's still a professional, so he knows not to like attack us, doesn't want to actually harm us unless, we actually block a fight. But so when we shove him up against the wall, he takes his fist, massive, powerful fist, and he would slam it into the wall. The wall at the playhouse is not that strong. And Abel's fist went through the wall, not through a flat, not through a fake wall, through the actual playhouse wall. Boom! And he just looks at it and he goes, ah! And we arrest him. And then that night we patched up the hole in the wall. So if you go there now, there's this big
Oh, that was you?
That was Abel's fist.
All right, I got one more for sure, and I just remembered this one because you were talking about Abel. This was taken to the shrew, and this particular scene, it was between Raul and myself, and we were talking, and I'm still wearing. This is my disguise: the fake hair and the fake beard. There's pictures of it all over the place. And this is when I unmask myself and I say who I really am on Hortensio, And normally, I would just take it off, and then I would just kind of shake my hair out. It was a little longer than what it is right now. And that would be it. And then I would slap him, or he would slap me. One of the two. I don't know. It was funny, though, because this one particular night, I took it off, and, oh, no, that's right. We never would slap each other before, maybe just a quick pat. In that same scene, right, to show who I really am and take off my silly disguise. Well, that night, I took off my disguise, but I did my hair thing more than once, and Raul just kind of went, bah! And he slapped me really quick, and I was like, what? So he starts talking, and I went, bah! And I slapped him really hard, and he goes, in the middle of a sentence, he goes, and then he starts talking, he slaps me one more time. And right before we're about to exit, I have one more line when I say it, and I slap him really quick, and I go off stage, and he's like... So that whole scene was just about slapboxing. So we slapped each other a couple of times, but it was really funny. And Raul, if you're watching this, it was hilarious. I had a good time. That was actually really fun, though. That was a good time working with Raul. He's funny. I think that's it. At least for now. Cool.
Da, 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 da.